Hello guys, a couple of weeks ago we took a look at a motor driver chip, a single motor driver. It was a TC118 and we just tried it out to see what it was like, and it seemed to work okay. So what I'm going to do in this video is just design up a simple PCB that we can drive a single motor driver. We won't need the expansion chip, so this should be a fairly simple PCB to make this time, and it'll probably be pretty useful for things like Arctic lorries, where you might just have the one drive motor, or any sort of basic tractor really. But the TC118 is not the only motor driver I have here to test, so what I'm going to do is we'll make up the general sort of board, and then I'll just change the chip on the different boards here so that we can try out all these different chips directly in a model. I'm not sure what the model will be, maybe it'll be in a couple of different models, but we'll just have the different boards so that we're able to test out the different chips here. I started here with one of the boards that I'd already done. It was the dual motor board, because that already has the pins here at the right spacing for the version 4 control board. We already have some of the output pins in position here. We might need to add a few extras that we're not using now for the other motor drivers. One of these two is the PWM for the second channel that we were using on the TB6612 FNG chip. So if we're not using that, we can add that as an extra output, an extra PWM output, so that's pretty useful. And because we're only using one chip, we might be able to reduce the size of this board. And another thing I want to add is some sort of holes for mounting the board, just that you can put a simple screw in and screw it to a chassis or something. That'll make it a little bit easier when you're trying to remove the main control board from the top of it, to just unplug it for programming. So I'll record what I'm doing here, and you'll be able to just watch as the PCB develops, because it's probably going to take a while to do it. Okay, well that's our board reconfigured. We have our new single motor driver IC just in the center here. We've kept the 10 microfarad capacitors, and I think that's a 100 nanofarad capacitor possibly. So we kept those capacitors. That should just help reduce noise a little. I added in all these extra pins for two reasons. One, because this is kind of a test board, and two, I was thinking this single motor driver could be useful for like a tipping trailer, and if you were using it in something like a trailer, you wouldn't need the radio, and if you take the radio off, then all these extra pins are free, so might as well just have them there. I don't know why you would need that many pins on a trailer. You're never going to have that many lights, I wouldn't think, but the option is there. I've added in these mounting holes as well, so that should be good enough for an M2 bolt. I'd say the head of the bolt will hit these pins here, but again, it's unlikely that you're going to use all of these pins anyway, so I'm not terribly worried about that. And on top of that, all you have to do really is just put a little plastic washer between the bolt head and the pins and just solder your wires up from the bottom. It's not really an issue either. By compressing it down this much, it means that we can fit it into much smaller models, so things like accessories that you would have behind a tractor, you might not have the same amount of space. Depends what you're doing really, but there's an awful lot of pins there exposed. You're going to have a lot of options. These would be your last resort sort of pins, although that one is the receive pin, so you probably would have a wire on that one, but most of the rest of them you could nearly avoid having to use. So this board should work with our TC118 motor driver chip. I'll do another one, reconfigure it for one of the other single motor driver chips I have, and I have an even smaller IC as well. I'm not sure how that one's going to work, but I'll reconfigure it for that as well, and then we can export these boards and get them manufactured and see how they work. Here's our second board now. We are changing from the TC118S motor driver to a BE6208 single motor driver, so it's the same footprint, another SOIC8, but it's just a different pin out, so shouldn't be too much to change here. Our third motor driver we're going to test is an MX116L, so it's the same idea, single motor driver, but this time it's in a SAT23-6 package, so much smaller than the other ones, but basically the same idea. I decided to make a fourth board, but this time there is no motor driver chip. This is basically just an output board, so it's kind of like a socket that you can screw into your model, and you can just take the outputs to drive LEDs, to drive servos, things like that, and there's no other ICs on the board. I did leave the smoothing capacitors on the board, so that should be pretty useful, and I added extra power inputs, raw and VCC. So that's our 4 boards designed. The next thing to do is upload them to the manufacturer. I'll use PCBWay as usual, so we should have them next week, I'd imagine. I'm not getting them assembled, I'm just getting the PCBs manufactured on their own, and I'll assemble them myself. So just some prototype boards that we can play around with, really. I have a few projects planned and I think these are going to come in handy, and so keep an eye out for those. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and make sure subscribe and get the bell on, all of that. That's all I have for today, so thanks very much for watching.